Thank you everybody for calling in and participating today. We're going to be talking about CRM for leadership as the topic that we had picked. And then next month on June 10th, Terry with Rogers O'Brien Construction. She is the CRM and diversity manager for them. She's going to be talking to us about her role in the company and how Rogers O'Brien uses CRM in their firm. So definitely check us out and return on the second Thursday of June, on June 10th. So did anybody, I don't know if I should ask for the positive or negative, who all attended the CRM for Leadership webinar last month? I don't remember what date it was on, but the second Tuesday of last month.
Was that the free webinar you're referring to? Yeah, I was there.
Okay, perfect. I'm going to pull the slide deck up and then we can kind of talk about the highlights. This was meant to be a discussion versus the webinar is a one-way. So there is no discussion on those platforms. So as we go through this, if you have things that you want to talk about, definitely shout out if you have questions or want to pose a question to the group. This is the time to have discussion around CRM for leadership and how maybe your firm is or isn't using your CRM specifically for leadership. And all y'all's faces just went away. Where did you go? There we go. Can you guys see my presentation? Perfect. All right, so of the group, do you guys feel like your firm is pretty data-driven? Do you feel like there's room to go? Where on your data-driven decision-making journey do you guys feel like you're at? Natalie and Amber, I'll let you guys kick it off with where you feel like Kraus is.
That's kind of like hard to say. I think I feel that we're 2/3 of the way, 3/4 of the way, because they've really taken leaps and bounds by what they're asking us to do. Analyzing wins and losses, why we win and lose, taking the sales out of there. So yes, are we all the way there? No, because we don't use every part of it or understand it. But I think our executives over the last couple of years have really understood how important this is. Amber, I don't know if you have more to add, but.
That last part is what I was going to say is I feel like this last year in particular, maybe because we've been home, more and more has been asked from us. So I think that people are really starting to rely on it a little bit more. But yeah,
absolutely.
I agree with what Natalie said.
Are you guys using or tracking the reasons why you lose? Is that a new, like a custom field that you guys turn on or a field that you repurposed?
Yes, we just started doing that.
Okay. And was it a drop down or is it a free text? They just write an explanation.
Working with Courtney Vance, we have a single select because it could be, you know, it wouldn't be consistent. And our boss wanted to, instead of having a multi-select, which we initially said, like, let's get the main reason, capture if there's several, like we lost because of experience, but our fee was also high in this. We put that in the notes too. And they look at the notes part too.
Excellent. I love it. Megan, what about you? Where do you feel Guidon is as far as your guys' data-driven decision-making process?
Yeah, I think that the opportunity side of our modules is very robust, and they're using that for projections on what our capacity and workload is going to be like for the next few periods, and they make hiring decisions off of it. So it is pretty data driven there. I think the side that lacks is project related data for us because it doesn't speak their language. So it just falls to the wayside sometimes.
Okay. Jill A., what about you?
I feel like we collect a lot of data, and they're, I don't know, maybe considering it when we think about what proposals we want to go after and stuff. But I think like our project managers have a lot of knowledge that we don't have in our CRM. It's just not a part, the data isn't like a part of their everyday life. Get it in there. So we could probably do better.
Well, that's on a future slide for sure. So you'll probably resonate with that, is that there's a difference between being data aware and being data driven. And I feel like that's where our industry is really good, is we collect the heck out of information, but do we do anything with it, or, you know, take it to that next step, is I think where we're kind of pushing. Tara, what about you guys?
It's a little hard to say, given, you know, fourth day.
4 days.
But my impression is that, oh, and I don't know if I mentioned I'm a senior marketing proposal specialist.
Okay.
My impression is that it is a mix of things. I would probably say at this point, you know, more data aware than data driven, but like the others, moving towards, you know, more data driven.
Absolutely. I'm just curious, did CRM or any sort of data collection come up during your interview process? Like what either you wanted to know what they had, or what their expectation of you would be?
It did not. You know, I've used Deltek Vision for many years and was very familiar with that. And I knew that Sun used Cosential. And I know it's a different platform, but I didn't have any anxiety about being able to, you know, make that transition from Vision to Cosential.
And if you can master Vision, Cosential will be a breeze.
That's the impression I had, was, you know, it's like Vision, but with a lot, much more friendly interface.
Yes, indeed. All right, Michelle, what about you guys? It looks like you might be on mute. I don't know if you've double muted yourself.
I had to find my mute. I had to find my mute button. Sorry about that. So we're in the very beginning stages. I mean, we have a lot of data in the CRM currently, and that's kind of what I've been doing for the past year, is inputting all of that, trying to make it as robust as possible. So our marketing group uses Cosential a lot. Upper management is still taking baby steps, I guess would be, but we are looking forward to the forecasting kind of module, and, you know, looking at what our workload will be in the future, things like that. So we're excited about that. As I said, I'm still learning everything about Cosential, so still trying to figure out how best to present everything. So definitely have the data in there. We're just looking at trying to get everyone to accept and use the data.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. You are not alone. Jill K., what about you guys?
I think within our marketing department, we're extremely data driven. Our director of marketing is like a data guru. But the technical staff, maybe not as much. They would probably be more in the emotions camp.
I hear you. All right. Well, maybe we can get some tips or discussions today to help move that in a good direction. Courtney Vance, you can answer this about CKC, or you can answer it about like what you see with your clients and kind of where the industry is. I'll let you decide which way you want to answer that. And it looks like you are muted.
I feel that my clients generally tend to be doing a pretty good job with their accounts. And I don't really have a good answer at the moment. Can you come back to me?
Yeah, of course. All right. So, I forgot that this slide did say data driven is different than data aware. I wasn't looking at the screen. All right, then next piece that we kind of talked about during this webinar were the misconceptions. So I didn't know if that resonated with any of you, or if you kind of wanted to share a story about this or ask any questions. Being data minded, there's a misconception that it removes the human element. I think it's actually the opposite, is that it helps put numbers and quantifies the human element, which is helpful. Chaz Ross Monroe at CoCentral, she and I did a webinar yesterday for SMPS HQ, and it was about change management. And one of the steps in Dr. Cotter's process is tying the head and the heart together. And we both laugh because we're so data driven that like sometimes we forget we have to connect that emotional side into it. But I think that it really does allow you to tie the human element into some quantifiable facts. Do you guys feel that you have any experience or you fight this at your own firm? This is a big one. Data must be perfect first before you can do anything with it or before you can launch anything. Sometimes we get hired and everybody's like, oh, I can't use Publisher. I can't produce documents until every single project is perfectly filled out. Then let me tell you, you're never going to use it because that is an unrealistic expectation.
This is Michelle. I do think that, well, I had a hard time getting past that myself and getting the data in there and thinking that it must be perfect, but I'm not the only one. And that's concerning up in management in that, well, this is missing and that is missing. And, you know, just saying, but it's a fluid moving thing, you know, it's a living being. We can always change it and update it and make it right. But if we're never going to use it, like you said, if we're waiting for it to be perfect, it's not going to be used. And we've wasted all of that time and money and energy into trying to get it perfect.
Paralysis by perfection. That is a real thing. I was going to pull up our website real quick because Chaz wrote an article that I thought was pretty good about this topic. I don't remember what slide it's on. As soon as I find it, I'll drop it in the chat window, but it's talking about the death of perfectionism and how that is a killer and that it's progress over perfection for sure.
Courtney, something we struggle with too is like how far it's come in the years that we've had. And then there may be one little thing that's not right and somebody notices it that's not in the system all the time. And then they don't trust it, they question. And then I think our response is always, what did you used to do all those years ago? You'd pull a bunch of Excel sheets, you'd pull a bunch of project cut sheets. And so it like makes, I think Amber, myself and Lindsay who work in the group, like we're so proud that we've presented, we can show you all the sewer work we've done. And then they find one we didn't have. And then like, we're just defeated. We've taken 10 steps back from our accomplishments sometimes.
Or God forbid, CoCentral has a bug and screws you over and, you know, something like that happens. Yeah. And I think that it kind of goes in line with what Michelle was talking about, is like having that conversation with the leaders where it's like, hey, let's not beat us up for what's missing. Let's celebrate that we can actually do this out of a click of a button. We're happy to go fill in the errors or, you know, the blanks or whatever that is. Sometimes I think like, you know, I look at my kids and they're like, they got this really swanky, cool gift. And then, you know, a day later, they're like, okay, what else? What else you got? And I'm like, no. You asked me like for a year for this gift. Like this needs to last a lot longer. But I think as humans, like our attention span, like we forget so quickly what it used to be like. Like, do you remember when you had to search the server for 2 hours to find a square footage of this project? That was real. Like you do it now in 2 clicks. So I think it is just reminding us of that piece for sure. I think we talked about that first one earlier. Gathering data isn't enough. There must be action. Data-driven companies aren't in touch with reality. I think we all know that's not true. The biggest challenges for leaders, I'm curious if you guys see this. Every time I talk to leaders in our industry, a unified data source is, I mean, it's always the first thing out of their mouth, if not the second thing. do you guys fight that still, or do you feel like you're on the good path of getting all of your data sets in one place?
Well, since I did this just recently, well, within the last year, I can say it's a huge, huge project to do. And I started questioning my kind of abilities and things like that, because it did take so long to get the information uploaded, and I'm still in the cleanup process of it. But I think the leaders are looking at that unified data source, because the marketing group, my marketing directors and myself are just, everything out of our mouth is essential. I mean, it's pretty much, well, let me show you what we can do. Here's a spreadsheet or whatever that you're looking for, and just trying to drive home that this is so much better than looking at our other spreadsheets and, access database and all of that, which is now in one unified place. So, yeah.
That's excellent. I think whenever I didn't have people's buy-in, like the accounting department wouldn't let me push the data to CoCentral or something, I used to always use it against them too. And they would ask me a question like, hey, what is our bonding capacity? I don't know. If accounting would let me connect it with CoCentral, I could get that answer for you. So it was like everything out of my mouth was like, if you let me do this, I would be able to provide that for you. Instead, you're going to have to go ask accounting because I can't do that for you. Or what, like, if this, then I could. If whatever it was. So I think that it's excellent that you guys are highlighting the CoCentral for sure. And then hopefully in the meetings too, you've got it up live. And if it's like a, BD marketing, that you've got it, the opportunity grid showing that kind of thing. Kraus, do you guys have like a project management software that is funneling into CoCentral, or do you feel like data is trapped anywhere else?
I feel like there's a couple different answers to that though too, because I feel like, again, the last year I've seen it utilized so much more in our individual project manager meetings with teams. People are using the dashboards, they are using the widgets, the grids. I think in this last year we've seen a huge increase in that. But then, I mean, we do have a lot of other software programs, but I don't know, Natalie, do you have anything to add to that? But I feel like they have been using it a lot.
Courtney, do you mean like the FDC? So we have Viewpoint that will funnel like skeleton project stuff, but we have to fill in because accounting
more like
won't.
a project management, like a Procore or Newforma or something where like your project managers are entering start and end dates over there, but you're not getting it.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, there's a lot of follow-up, like Lindsay on our team, she follows up after projects to make sure things are, and same with me on certain things on, do we have the right start and end dates, and that kind of stuff, so.
This is an article that I had written and should be coming out in the next issue of The Marketer. And it's really talking about that data is a lifestyle and not a one and done diet. It is a ongoing, like Michelle was talking about, like this is a moving, living target. So I think that shifting your mindset to like, okay, I'm going to eat healthier. I'm not just going to go on a crash liquid diet. Well, that's going to change some of my habits. That's going to change some of my behaviors. So looking at data that way, or your CRM or whatever that data piece is, I think is really critical, because that helps leadership shift from like, hey, aren't y'all done with this? Isn't CoCentral have a bow on it by now? No, it will not ever. Like this is a journey, and it will continue to be this way. Well, not this way as in empty, but like it will always be a point of work. Anybody have anything else on this slide? I'm super excited about this one. I attended a Dedicated conference and then a narrative science conference. and it was all data change makers outside of our industry. And I love getting together with people outside of our industry with other data nerds, because our outside of our industry is doing crazy cool things. And so taking some of that back and bringing it back here of like, what can it look like? What can that do? One of the things that's really cool about narrative science is that if anybody has kids in Little League or T-ball or anything like that, the Game Changer app, they take real life stats of what's happening in the game. Like Johnny just hit onto first base. Timmy came up and hit a home run, and Johnny jumped in, slid into home plate. All of that is a stat. Like, I don't know how to read a scorecard in baseball. I don't know anything about that, but some people do. They know how to look at it and they're like, oh, this just happened. And I'm like, these are just numbers on a really weird looking Excel spreadsheet. What narrative science has done is it takes that scorecard and turns it into a story, a live narrative paragraph story, all based on the data. So where my brain goes is like, why can we not build project sheets based on that? Like, this project is blah, blah, blah square feet and has this many, and I tell the story about our projects. That's where my brain goes. And then I'm like, why don't we do our dashboards that way? Our pipeline is X filled and it's this percentage short of where we need to be to keep our lights on. That's where I hope that we're headed and going, is these stories. Because the other part of this is, if you look at a dashboard, all 9 of us could look at it very differently. The exact same widget. We can look at it and go, oh, we're doing really good in business. And I could look at it and go, stage 1 is really light. That's probably not good. We need to keep stage 1 fuller. And then Megan goes, no, our closed ones are fantastic. Look at this. So the story piece of it gets really exciting, because you can help everybody get on the same page about what we're looking at. So one of the things I'm working with our general contractors right now is doing that for every widget that leadership looks at. Is here's the background of what you're actually looking at, like setting the stage instead of saying things like, just go look at the dashboard. Well, there are certain things that you have to understand, that like, you're looking at this projected by the estimated start date. That's why that's required on all opportunity records. Things like that, where I think that the background sometimes gets lost of what exactly am I looking at? And then projecting it forward. Like, this is telling us that, I think Megan was saying that it was hiring decisions. Like, oh, we're about to get slammed in Q3. If all of these actually start in Q3, we're going to need to hire X, Y, and Z. So I think that looking at that is really, it looks like Natalie just dropped. Really, I think where we're headed, and that is exciting. Has anybody started down a data storytelling journey?
I want to ask you a question on that. Are you just saying verbally you're explaining that when you're showing the dashboard? Because I'm the one that kind of like plays with our dashboards a lot and creates them and tells that story. But we have many users, many people that utilize them. And so I fear sometimes that they aren't telling the correct story. And I have a love-hate relationship with our widgets, because sometimes you cannot relabel certain things or say some kind of, if you could only have a little description on some of these would make life so much easier. But so that's what I assume you're saying, verbally telling the story when you're showing.
Yeah, so I'm actually working with the web browser widget to have it written out, and then on a script basis, and then that URL drops into the web browser right next to the widget so that I can display text. I haven't mastered it 100% yet, but so right now it's just a script that we give our clients, and it's the VP of business development who is saying it. Our hope is that we can project the words onto the dashboard. That's our goal that we're moving towards. What you see on my screen is what we've written. So the background for the pipeline that you see on the left, I have to explain to people that this is quantity driven. It's not dollar driven like you would think. That's what we're driven by, right? Is dollars. It's not. The width and height changes based on the quantity. So you can see that Stage 3, green, is the widest or tallest because it has the most. It has 56. Not the most dollars, but the most as in quantity of records. So that is a really important thing to set the stage up. The other thing is that this is not agile. It will forever stay a funnel. What you'll see is that stage 5 is actually bigger quantity and dollars than stage 4. So technically the widget should pop back out if it was agile, because that is a bigger piece of the funnel than the stage above. But everybody has to know it's going to stay a funnel shape forever. It's never going to change. So don't just look at this and go, oh yeah, we're great. We have more in the top of the funnel and less at the bottom. No. That's not what the graph visually is telling you. So that's kind of that background piece. The narrative of like what you're looking at after, what you're looking at after that. Hello. Why are you not popping up? Uh-oh. My narrative is gone. Dang. Okay, I'll have to get that for you. I don't remember. Oh, you know what? I think I just dropped it in here for one of your clients, Courtney. Dashboards. Was that it? Nope. Okay. I don't know why the narrative piece, it's supposed to be a second click and then it pops up, but for some reason it's not showing up. So sorry about that piece. Looking at the narrative discussion, that next piece is, did I save it in a different folder? Data stories. Woo! Is the narrative. So we want to keep our pursuits truly in a funnel, with the pipeline being the fullest at the top. Therefore, we need stages 1 through 4 to have the largest dollar values. At the time of the screenshot above, the stages 1 through 4 totaled $729 million. The pending opportunities, so stage 5 and 6, totaled $75 million. Looking at on holds, it was 114. Okay, fine. You can see all that looking, not the totals, but you can see all that on the grid. We know that our hit rate is 47% and our annual goal is $350 million. This means that we need to chase $744 million in order to meet that $350 million goal. So it's vital that stages 1 through 6 and 1 through 4 have that much in it. So looking at that, then you can kind of work backwards and say, oh, we're actually short. So 729 is not 744. Like, we've got a discrepancy. Now, if you add 729 and the pending in that 75, cool, then we're there. We're on track. That's the kind of narrative. So when you look at it, everybody's on the same page and we can all know, yes, we're on track. No, we're not. But everybody can look at that and kind of take different stuff away from it, where you're like, oh, maybe we aren't good. Maybe we are. I don't really know. Those are the narratives that if I type this in, it's outdated tomorrow because the totals are not responsive, right? So that's where I'm like, narrative science could work, because it would total it and tell you the story as things change, as the scorecard is improving. Obviously, I'm not there yet. So this is baby steps. Don't get, or what was it, paralysis by perfection. So that's where I'm excited about this going. Does that answer your question, Amber? Okay.
It does. And we started doing like quarterly meetings last year with our business development groups and all, because we have a couple different offices, and then within our bigger headquarters, we have different business units. So we started doing that, and we have certain widgets that we use to tell that story. So a lot of them are familiar with those stories. Obviously getting that story to everyone else is another story, but yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's a journey.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I geek out on this stuff, so I am sorry that we went 6 minutes over, My bad. Thank you guys for joining us again. We'll hear from Terry next month. If you guys are doing something really cool, or if there's a topic that you want to talk about and be the guest speaker, we have spots open. So definitely reach out and let me know. We would love to hear from you and highlight you as our guest speaker. Anybody have anything before we end or jump off? Sounds good. Well, thank you guys for spending a little bit of your afternoon.
Thanks, Courtney.